You ever heard that famous Yogi Berra-ism? Nobody goes to that place anymore. It's too crowded. Well, that's kind of what you sound like when you say Bitcoin has failed. Nobody uses it to buy things because it's too valuable. A lot of critics want to say Bitcoin is a failure because they see the words peer-to-peer electronic cash system at the top of the white paper, and they don't see full-scale global adoption of Bitcoin as a medium of exchange for every transaction on Earth, and they call it a failure. There's obviously a lot of problems with this logic, but can't you see the inherent contradiction saying it's become too valuable, it's too good of a store of value? Therefore, people only want to hold it, and they don't want to pay for other things with it, and somehow that makes it a failure? Oh, damn, I can't buy coffee with it. All I can do is hold it and get 60% year over year compound annual growth on my money. Oh, what a bummer. And listen, this phenomenon is not even new. So maybe I got you a little bit with the clickbait and the video title, but this is still interesting, so stick around. There's something called Gresham's law. It goes back to the 16th century, and it was observed as a phenomenon even before that. But there was this guy, Sir Thomas Gresham, who was like a financial advisor to Queen Elizabeth. This phenomenon is named after him. It's called Gresham's law, and it says, bad money drives out the good. Seems counterintuitive. Why would bad money drive out the good? Well, what it means is this phenomenon has been continuously observed in human societies for centuries. If there's more than one currency in circulation, even if they have the same face value, but people figure out or determine or observe that one actually has more value than the other, people will hoard the better currency and they will spend the weaker currency. Therefore, you'll see all the better currency disappear from circulation and the economy will be dominated in medium of exchange terms by the weaker currency. The classic example is if there's more than one metallic coin being used as currency, and say by government decree they have the same face value, but people realize that one of the coins actually contains more of the metal, like gold, and the other one has been debased and has less metal content, therefore it's less valuable, people will begin saving the valuable coins and only transacting in the less valuable coins. Seems obvious, right? You'd rather get rid of the one that's less valuable and hold on to the one that's more valuable until, say, the day comes when you have to spend it. So you see the whole Bitcoin is a failure because people don't spend it argument is not the own that people think it is. And it's actually a self-own because it's by definition an admission that Bitcoin is a better form of money that people want to hold to store their value into the future. And they want to spend the worst form of money, which is dirty, debasing fiat. And now here's the other reason why this argument is not the own that these critics think it is. Money has three principal functions. It's a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. But to think that a commodity money would emerge naturally and immediately fulfill all three for the entire global market is very silly. It's very natural for commodity money to take time to move through these stages. And there's a very obvious order that commodity money would go through as it becomes adopted and fulfills those three uses. So first, a commodity money has to possess the right properties in order to be able to fill each use. If it possesses the right properties, which I've talked about in a number of other videos, they are durable, divisible, portable, verifiable, fungible, and scarce. If it possesses those properties, it will first begin being adopted as a store of value. And in the early days of money, we have a lot of evidence that money often started as a collectible. Once the collectible becomes widely recognized as a store of value, then people are willing to or want to acquire it in exchange for other things. And then it becomes a medium of exchange. You can see why this direction of adoption makes sense, because why would I want to transact in something? In other words, sell something that I have of value or expend my labor and get something in return if I don't believe the thing I'm getting in return actually has value or will store value into the future. I'm not going to do a transaction or work for something that I'm getting in return doesn't have any value. First, the commodity money undergoes the stage of adoption as a store of value. People start to recognize that it's valuable. Then they're willing to work for it or exchange something else of value to receive it. And then the more widely recognized it is as a store of value, the more adoption it begins to see as a medium of exchange. Now, obviously, at both these stages, as it's becoming adopted, it might not yet be a unit of account. The unit of account means people are pricing other things in terms of that commodity. So first comes store of value, then comes medium of exchange. And then once those two things are widely accepted, then people begin pricing other things in terms of that commodity. But again, why would you be using it as unit of account or pricing other things in it if it wasn't already fulfilling the other two? You're not going to just start pricing things in terms of something that's not a store of value. It makes no sense. So again, acting like that should have all happened at some global scale within 16 years for Bitcoin is a silly argument. It's not critical thinking. And it shows no understanding of the history of money, and it shows no ability to project what might happen in the future based off the evidence we have so far. So check out the adoption curve here on the screen. I grabbed this like in 2022 from this guy, Must Stop Murad, on his Twitter account. And he either made it or published it before that. So where it says we are here, I would say you probably got to move the star a little farther along on the curve in 2025. And you can see at the bottom there, it references the Lindy effect, which in very simple terms says the longer something's been around, the longer it's likely to continue existing, especially for non-perishable things like ideas or technologies. So every day the Bitcoin network survives and gets stronger increases the likelihood that it will continue to survive longer into the future. So like I mentioned earlier, see at the bottom of the curve, you have the properties something has to have to be able to store value. Then first it becomes a collectible. Then you have this market adoption period where people realize that it's decentralized, people realize it's immutable, more and more people realize it can't be changed. Each dot along there is basically decreased risk. So this thing becomes less risky over time as the network becomes more robust, as it becomes clear it can't be hacked, it can't be changed, as more and more people start to adopt it. And then at some point it reaches that reliable store of value phase. So I don't know exactly how to gauge where we are in the curve, but we're somewhere around there because we now have institutions, nation states, et cetera, recognizing it as a reliable store of value, even if some large percentage of the normie population hasn't arrived at that yet. So there you see the network continues to grow, liquidity continues to grow, which stabilizes price. Eventually, it becomes even more acceptable, more recognizable. You need the industry to grow up. You need more products and services and companies built up around Bitcoin. You need the layer 2 to be built up. And this is all what we're seeing now. This is all going to continue to get built in the future. Imagine the infrastructure that had to get built up to allow credit cards to become ubiquitous. It doesn't happen overnight, but eventually there's no reason why it can't or won't become a widespread medium of exchange. Price stabilizes even more. And then it's just a mental shift. People start pricing things in Satoshis rather than pricing them in dollars, or price them in both. Why not? And at the end there, it's got full global money. So based on everything that's happened so far in the past, and based on all the properties that exist of the asset, there's been no argument that I've seen and no real reason why this isn't going to continue along this adoption curve. Oh, and by the way, and then we reach Thiers' law, which is the opposite of Gresham's law. Thiers' law states that the good money will drive out the bad when the bad money becomes nearly worthless and people abandon it in favor of more stable currencies, even if the bad money is still legal tender. See Weimar Germany. See Zimbabwe. You can have $1 trillion note and still nobody wants it. And as we know, all fiat currencies trend to zero on a long enough time horizon, especially against Bitcoin. So as my guy Gen Z BTC said when I interviewed him a couple weeks ago, Satoshi Guapamoto, go watch that interview.
You don't want to be the one holding kind of like the fake currency until you're forced to use a real one, because then you're late to the party, okay? They call you a laggard, and now you have the least amount of the new currency because you took so long to transition. The musical chairs game was going, and you did not stop when the music stopped. You just kept walking around. There are no more chairs left for you, and now you're going to have a really tough time.
You don't want to be caught holding worthless fiat bags and not holding the hardest money that man's ever known. So you might want to keep studying Bitcoin. All right, if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, go watch some of my other videos, share this with somebody who doesn't know what Gresham's law is, and never forget, as always, Bitcoin's inevitable.